The message came on a Tuesday morning, when Captain Lee Dae-ho was drinking his third cup of coffee in the command center of the UES Indomitable. The quantum relay station had been quiet for months, which made the sudden burst of alien signals all the more startling. The communications officer, a young woman named Park Ji-won, nearly dropped her tablet when the translation program started working. "Captain, you need to see this," she said, her voice shaking slightly. "It's from something called the Galactic Council." Dae-ho set down his coffee and walked over to her station. The message was displayed in perfect Korean, though the translation software noted that the original had been in 17 different alien languages simultaneously. The tone was formal, but carried an unmistakable air of superiority. "To the governing body of the third planet in the Sol system," the message began, "the Galactic Council acknowledges your recent achievement of faster-than-light travel and hereby extends an invitation to participate in formal first contact protocols. You will send appropriate representatives to the neutral station Harmony Gate within 30 standard rotations. Your delegation should consist of no more than 12 individuals aboard a suitable diplomatic vessel. Any deviation from these parameters will be considered an act of hostility. We look forward to welcoming the newest primitive species into the galactic community." Dae-ho read the message twice before calling Admiral Kim Tae-min at Earth Defense Command. The admiral was a practical man who had spent 40 years in the military, working his way up from a grunt soldier to the head of humanity's space forces. When the quantum relay connected, Kim was already reading the same message. "Well, that's insulting," Kim said without preamble. "Primitive species, suitable diplomatic vessel. They're treating us like children who need to be told how to behave." "The tone bothers me too," Dae-ho replied. "But this is what we've been preparing for. First contact was always going to happen eventually." Within hours, the Earth Defense Council convened an emergency session. Ambassador Park So-jin flew in from Geneva, where she had been negotiating trade agreements between the Earth colonies. She was a small woman with sharp eyes and a reputation for never backing down from a fight, even when the odds were against her. Dr. Choi Hee-jin arrived from the Xenolinguistics Institute, carrying 3 tablets full of analysis on the alien message structure. The debate in the council chamber was heated. Most of the civilian members wanted to send a small diplomatic ship with minimal military escort. They argued that showing up with weapons would send the wrong message and potentially start a war that humanity could not win. "We know nothing about their military capabilities," said Defense Minister Lee Sang-wook. "For all we know, they could turn Earth into a crater if we offend them." Admiral Kim disagreed. "That message wasn't an invitation, it was a summons. They're already treating us like inferiors. If we show up in a tiny ship with our heads bowed, they'll walk all over us." Ambassador Park studied the alien message on her tablet. "The linguistics analysis is interesting," she said. "Dr. Choi, can you explain what you found?" The xenolinguist stood up and activated the wall display. "The message uses dominance markers in all 17 languages. It's not just translated words, it's translated concepts. Whoever sent this thinks they're dealing with a species that needs to be controlled." "So what do you recommend?" asked the Prime Minister. "I recommend we surprise them," said a new voice from the back of the room. Captain Lee Dae-ho had been sitting quietly, but now he stood up. "Send me." "Captain, you command." "A battleship, not a diplomatic vessel," Admiral Kim pointed out. "Exactly," Dae-ho replied. "They want appropriate representatives on a suitable diplomatic vessel. What if we redefine what that means?" The room fell silent. Ambassador Park looked at him with interest. "Explain." Dae-ho walked to the front of the room. "The Indomitable is the most advanced ship humanity has ever built. She's got diplomatic quarters, meeting rooms, and communication systems that can handle any alien technology we might encounter. More importantly, she represents what humanity is capable of building when we put our minds to it." "She's also a warship," the defense minister objected. "So what?" Dae-ho asked. "They called us primitives. Let's show them exactly how primitive we are." Dr. Choi was nodding slowly. "There's precedent in human history. The Romans sent delegations backed by legions. The British sent gunboat diplomacy missions. Sometimes showing strength prevents conflict rather than causing it. Ambassador. Park was studying her tablet again. Captain, would you be willing to serve as my military advisor during negotiations? I'd be honored, Ambassador. Admiral Kim looked around the room. You're all insane. But I've seen what happens when we try to appease bullies. Sometimes the only language they understand is strength. The vote was close, but the decision was made. The UES Indomitable would carry Ambassador Park to humanity's first formal contact with alien civilization. The ship was already the pride of the Earth Defense Fleet, but now she would become something more. She would be humanity's calling card to the galaxy. The Indomitable was impressive by any standard. At 2.5 kilometers long, she was built like a sword made of steel and determination. Her hull was covered in ablative armor designed to absorb energy weapons, and her weapon systems could punch holes through asteroids. But she was also home to 3,000 crew members with gardens, recreation areas, and workshops where people could pursue art and music during long deployments. Captain Daeho had commanded her for 2 years, and he knew every bolt and circuit on the ship. His crew was handpicked from the best the Earth Defense Fleet had to offer. They came from every nation and background, united by their commitment to protecting Earth and exploring the stars. The preparation took 2 weeks. Ambassador Park moved her entire diplomatic staff aboard, setting up offices in the sections normally reserved for Marine battalions. Dr. Choi established a xenolinguistics center in the ship's main computer core, where she could analyze alien communications in real time. The crew reacted to their new mission with typical military pragmatism. They cleaned and polished everything that could be cleaned and polished. They practiced their drills until they could respond to any emergency in seconds. Most importantly, they prepared to represent not just Earth's military, but all of humanity. Lieutenant Jo Minho, the ship's youngest officer, spent hours studying alien cultural databases. Captain, he asked one day, what if they don't understand what we're trying to do? Daeho was reviewing star charts in his ready room. Then we'll explain it to them, Lieutenant. Sometimes the best diplomacy is just being honest about who you are. Chief Engineer Nam Soo-young was less optimistic. Sir, if this goes wrong, we'll be the crew that started the first interstellar war. If this goes wrong, Daeho replied, we'll be the crew that made sure humanity went down fighting. The night before departure, Ambassador Park held a briefing for the senior staff. Ladies and gentlemen, we're about to make history, not just for Earth, but for our entire species. These aliens think they know what humanity is like. Let's show them they're wrong. Dr. Choi had spent the 2 weeks analyzing every piece of information about the Galactic Council. From what we can determine, they're a confederation of older species who see themselves as the guardians of galactic civilization. They've probably been doing this for thousands of years, which means they think they know how it's supposed to go, Ambassador Park said. New species shows up, gets integrated into their system, follows their rules. What if we don't want to follow their rules? Asked Commander Yang Hyun-soo, the ship's executive officer. Then we'll write our own, Ambassador Park replied. The morning of departure, the crew assembled in the main hangar bay. Captain Daeho stood before them, looking at the faces of men and women who had volunteered to serve humanity among the stars. 3 years ago, we launched this ship to defend Earth, he said. Today we launched to represent Earth. Every one of you signed up to protect our home and our people. Today that mission extends to protecting our future as a free species. The crew responded with a cheer that echoed through the hangar bay. These were people who had trained to fight alien invaders, and now they were going to meet those aliens as diplomats. It was either the most brilliant strategy in human history or the most spectacular mistake. As the Indomitable engaged her faster-than-light drive and disappeared into the quantum foam, Captain Daeho settled into his command chair. In 3 days they would arrive at Harmony Gate and humanity would take its first step into a larger universe. Whether that step led to peace or war would depend on what happened next. The UES Indomitable dropped out of faster-than-light travel with a flash of blue energy that lit up every sensor within 100,000 kilometers. Captain Lee Daeho watched the main display as their destination came into view, Harmony Gate. was exactly what its name suggested. A massive space station built where 3 star systems met, designed to be neutral ground for diplomatic meetings. The station was beautiful in an alien way, with flowing curves and crystalline structures that caught starlight and reflected it in rainbow patterns. Ships from a dozen different species were docked around its perimeter, each one sleek and elegant. They looked like works of art compared to the blunt, practical design of human vessels. Then the aliens got their first look at the Indomitable. Communications Officer Park Ji-won was monitoring the alien frequencies when every single one of them lit up at once. Her translation software could barely keep up with the flood of messages flying between the various ships in the station. "Captain," she said, they're not happy." On the main display, Captain Daeho could see why. The Indomitable was easily 3 times larger than the biggest alien vessel present. Where their ships had smooth, artistic lines, the human battleship looked like it had been built to survive the end of the world. Her hull was scarred from weapons testing and covered in sensor arrays that stuck out like spines. Gun turrets and missile pods were visible along her entire length. "Sir," called out Lieutenant Commander Park Dong-min from the tactical station, "we're being scanned. Multiple ships, multiple sensor types." "Let them look," Daeho replied. "Commander Yang, open a channel to the station." The main display shifted to show the interior of Harmony Gate's control center. The being that appeared was unlike anything in human imagination. It had 6 arms, compound eyes, and chitinous armor that gleamed under the station's lights. When it spoke, the translator identified it as Commander Krelthak of the Vex Empire. "Human vessel," Krelthak said, its voice carrying a note of outrage. "You were instructed to arrive in a diplomatic ship with minimal escort. What is the meaning of this warship?" Ambassador Park So-jin stepped forward into the camera's view. She was wearing her formal diplomatic uniform, and her voice was perfectly calm. "Commander Krelthak, I am Ambassador Park So-jin, representing the United Earth Government. This is our diplomatic vessel." The alien's compound eyes seemed to focus on her with difficulty, as if it couldn't believe what it was hearing. "That is a warship, Ambassador. It is also our most advanced ship, equipped with the finest diplomatic facilities humanity can provide," Park replied. "We took your invitation seriously and sent our best." From his position just out of camera range, Captain Daeho watched the alien's body language. Dr. Choi Hye-jin had briefed him on what to look for, and everything about Krelthak's posture screamed alarm and confusion. "This is highly irregular," the alien said. "Your vessel is far too large and threatening for station docking." "We understand completely," Ambassador Park said without missing a beat. "We would be honored to host the diplomatic meeting aboard our vessel instead. We have excellent conference facilities." The screen went dark as Krelthak cut the connection. Captain Daeho could see the alien ships moving, taking defensive positions around the station. On the tactical display, Lieutenant Commander Park was tracking at least 15 different targeting systems trying to lock onto the Indomitable. "They're scared," Dr. Choi said from her position at the xenolinguistic station. "The communication patterns show fear responses in 3 different species." Ambassador Park turned to Captain Daeho. "Captain, I believe we may have made a stronger first impression than intended." "Ma'am, strong impressions are sometimes the best kind," Daeho replied. The communication channel reopened, this time showing 3 different aliens. Commander Krelthak was joined by a shimmering energy being that the translator identified as Prime Speaker Veltar of the Ethereal Collective, and a large reptilian creature labeled as War Chief Grondar of the Krolik Hegemony. War Chief Grondar spoke first, his voice a low growl. "Humans, your arrival has violated diplomatic protocol. You will withdraw immediately or face the consequences." Captain Daeho stepped into camera range for the first time. "War Chief, I am Captain Lee Daeho of the UES Indomitable. We came here in response to your invitation, and we came in good faith. If our presence offends you, we can certainly leave." Prime Speaker Veltar's energy form flickered with what the computer identified as agitation. "You mock the sacred traditions of diplomatic contact. With respect, Prime Speaker, Ambassador Park said, we are unfamiliar with your traditions because this is our first contact. We brought our finest ship and our best people because we wanted to show proper respect. Commander Krelthak's 6 arms gestured in what appeared to be frustration. Your finest ship is a weapon of war. All of our ships are weapons of war, Captain Deho said simply. We are a young species, and our history has been marked by conflict. But we are here to talk, not to fight. The 3 aliens conferred, among themselves in languages the translator couldn't follow. Finally, Commander Krelthak spoke again. You will submit to a full inspection of your vessel before any diplomatic contact can proceed. Absolutely not, Captain Deho said immediately. This is a military vessel of the United Earth government. We don't allow foreign inspections of our ships. War Chief Grondar's reptilian features twisted into what might have been a smile. Then you will leave immediately. Ambassador Park looked at Captain Deho, who nodded slightly. She turned back to the aliens. Gentlemen, I believe there's been a misunderstanding. We're not here to be inspected or judged. We're here for diplomatic talks between equals. If you prefer to conduct those talks aboard our vessel, you're welcome to visit us. If you prefer we leave, that's also acceptable. The silence stretched for nearly a minute. Dr. Choi was furiously analyzing the alien communications, her fingers flying over her control panels. Finally, she looked up at Captain Deho and nodded. They're debating among themselves, she whispered. The energy being thinks we're trying to intimidate them. The reptilian one is arguing that backing down shows weakness. The insectoid is trying to find a solution that saves face. Prime Speaker Veltar spoke next. We will visit your vessel to assess its suitability for diplomatic proceedings. A small delegation will transport aboard. You're welcome anytime, Ambassador Park replied. We'll prepare appropriate accommodations. The connection closed and the bridge fell silent except for the soft humming of the ship's systems. Captain Deho looked around at his crew, men and women who had trained for years to defend Earth against alien invasion. Now they were about to host those same aliens for dinner. Commander Yang, he said, prepare the diplomatic quarters, full honor guard, but keep the weapons stowed. Lieutenant Joe, you'll give our guests a tour of the ship. Show them everything except the classified areas. Lieutenant Joe Minho looked nervous. Sir, what if they ask about our weapon systems? Answer honestly, Captain Deho said. We're not here to hide what we are. Chief Engineer Nam Soo Young spoke up from her station. Captain, should I power down the defensive systems? Negative. Keep everything online and ready. If they ask about it, tell them it's standard operating procedure. Ambassador Park was reviewing her notes on a tablet. Captain, are you sure about this approach? We're essentially showing them our capabilities instead of our peaceful intentions. Ma'am, with respect, our capabilities are our peaceful intentions, Deho replied. If they understand what we can do, they'll also understand why we're choosing not to do it. Dr. Choi finished her analysis of the alien communications. The linguistic patterns suggest they've never encountered a species like us before. Most new civilizations apparently show up in small ships asking for protection and guidance. Well, we're definitely not doing that, Commander Yang observed. An hour later, 3 small alien shuttles approached the Indomitable. Captain Deho and Ambassador Park waited in the main shuttle bay with an honor guard of Marines in dress uniforms. The Marines carried no weapons, but their bearing and training were obvious to anyone who knew what to look for. The first shuttle to land was sleek and silver, clearly designed by the Ethereal Collective. Prime Speaker Veltar emerged as a column of shimmering energy that somehow maintained a humanoid shape. The second shuttle was angular and metallic, belonging to the Vex Empire. Commander Krelthak stepped out with 2 other insectoid beings, their compound eyes reflecting the hangar bay lights. The third shuttle was built for durability rather than elegance. War Chief Grondar emerged with an escort of 2 other reptilian warriors, each one nearly 3 meters tall and covered in natural armor plating. Ambassador Park stepped forward with Captain Deho at her side. Welcome aboard the UES Indomitable. We're honored to host you. Commander Krelthak's 6 arms gestured in what the translation software identified as cautious greeting. This vessel is larger than we expected. She's home to 3,000 crew members, Captain Deho said, proudly. Would you like to see how we live out here among the stars? War Chief Grondar looked around the hangar bay, taking in the massive space, the industrial lighting, and the obvious military efficiency of everything he saw. Your people build for war. We build for survival. Lieutenant Zhou Minho had given tours of the Indomitable before, but never to aliens who might decide whether humanity lived or died based on what they saw. He led the three-species delegation through the ship's corridors, trying to show them what made humans different from whatever they expected. The first stop was the medical bay, where Dr. Kim Yuna was treating a crew member who had injured his hand in the engine room. Commander Krelthak's compound eyes focused on the advanced surgical equipment, while War Chief Grondar examined the medical monitors with interest. Your healing technology appears sophisticated, Prime Speaker Veltar observed, his energy form flickering near a regeneration tank. We've had to get good at fixing people, Lieutenant Zhou replied honestly. Space is dangerous and we look after our own. Dr. Kim noticed the aliens and approached them with the same friendly professionalism she showed everyone. Are you our diplomatic guests? I'm Dr. Kim Yuna, Chief Medical Officer. Is anyone injured or feeling unwell? Different species sometimes react badly to ship atmospheres. Commander Krelthak's 6 arms gestured in what the translation software marked as surprise. You would treat us? Of course, Dr. Kim said, looking puzzled. That's what doctors do. War Chief Grondar leaned down to examine the injured crew member, who was chatting casually with the medical staff despite his bandaged hand. This warrior was wounded in battle. Wounded fixing a plasma conduit, the crew member corrected with a grin. Hazards of the job. Doc Kim will have me back to work tomorrow. You treat your wounded with such informality, the reptilian observed. Lieutenant. Joe led them out of the medical bay and toward the crew quarters. Along the way, they passed groups of off-duty personnel playing games, reading, and talking in the corridor lounges. Every crew member they encountered nodded respectfully to the lieutenant but showed no fear of the aliens. Your warriors show no deference, Prime Speaker Veltar noted. They're not warriors, they're crew members, Lieutenant Joe explained. And I'm not their lord, I'm their officer. We work together. The alien delegation exchanged what appeared to be meaningful looks. In the crew quarters section, Lieutenant Joe showed them a typical living space. The rooms were small but comfortable, with personal items and photographs displayed on every surface. Commander Krelthak examined a picture of a human family. These creatures in the image? That's Petty Officer Lee's family back on Earth, Lieutenant Joe said, his wife and daughter. He carries images of his breeding partners into battle? War Chief Grondar asked. He carries images of the people he's protecting, Lieutenant Joe corrected. Chief Engineer Nam Soo-young met them at the engineering section, her uniform stained with grease and her hands dirty from working on the ship's systems. She greeted the aliens with the same enthusiasm she showed for any visitors to her domain. Welcome to the heart of the ship, she said proudly. These are the most advanced engines humanity has ever built. Prime Speaker Veltar's energy form moved closer to the massive fusion reactors. Your technology appears robust, built to last, Nam Soo-young agreed. We don't have the luxury of calling for help if something breaks out here. Everything has backups and the backups have backups. Commander Krelthak was examining the redundant control systems. You expect significant damage to your vessels. We plan for it, Nam Soo-young said. Space combat is brutal and fast. Ships that can't take punishment don't survive. War Chief Grondar studied the engineering crew, who were performing maintenance while the tour continued around them. Your technicians work, while strangers observe their secrets. No secrets here, Nam Soo-young replied. Just good engineering. Would you like to see how the quantum drive works? The alien spent 20 minutes examining human technology, asking questions that Nam Soo-young answered with technical precision and obvious pride. What disturbed them wasn't the sophistication of the systems, but the philosophy behind them. Human technology was designed around the assumption that everything would eventually break, be damaged, or fail catastrophically. Lieutenant Joe led them to the recreation areas next, where crew members were engaged in various activities. A group was playing basketball in the gymnasium, their laughter echoing off the walls. In the library, others were reading or studying. The arts and crafts section had people working on everything from paintings to sculpture. Your warriors pursue aesthetic activities? Prime Speaker Veltar asked, watching a crew member carve a piece of wood. People need hobbies, Lieutenant Joe said. Keeps everyone sane during long deployments. Commander Krelthak observed a chess match between two senior petty officers. They engage in strategy games? Chess teaches you to think ahead and consider consequences, one of the players explained without looking up from the board. Useful skills in any job. The alien delegation was beginning to understand that human military culture was unlike anything they had encountered. These weren't professional warriors in the sense that other species understood the term. They were ordinary people who had chosen to serve, and they brought their whole personalities with them. The tour continued to the weapons systems, where Lieutenant Commander Park Dongmin explained the ship's armaments with the same pride that Nam Soo-young had shown for the engines. The aliens learned that human weapons were designed for precision rather than raw power, with sophisticated targeting systems that could distinguish between threats and non-combatants. You have weapons capable of destroying planets, War Chief Grondar observed, studying the specifications of the ship's main guns. We have weapons capable of protecting planets, Lieutenant Commander Park corrected. There's a difference. Prime Speaker Veltar's energy form flickered with what might have been confusion. Your vessel is designed for both offense and defense simultaneously. It's designed to bring our people home alive, Lieutenant Commander, Park said simply. The final stop was the officers' mess, where Captain Lee Dae-ho and Ambassador Park So-jin were waiting with dinner prepared. The meal was simple military fare, but it was served in the ship's finest dining room, with the best china and silverware the Indomitable possessed. What shocked the aliens wasn't the food or the formal setting. It was the fact that Captain Dae-ho served the meal himself, treating his guests with the same courtesy he would show visiting dignitaries on Earth. When Commander Yang Hyun-soo arrived late from his duty shift, he simply sat down and joined the conversation without ceremony. Your subordinate shows no ritual submission, Commander Krelthak observed. Why would he? Captain Dae-ho asked. He's my executive officer, not my servant. During the meal, the crew members who served the food chatted casually with both the officers and the alien guests. Dr. Choi Hyejin explained human cultural concepts while asking detailed questions about alien society. The entire atmosphere was friendly and relaxed, despite the formal setting. War Chief Grondar watched a petty officer refill his water glass while joking with Commander Yang about a recent sporting event. Your hierarchy is flexible. Rank is about responsibility, not privilege, Captain Dae-ho explained. That petty officer might save all our lives someday. We treat him accordingly. Prime Speaker Veltar had been silent for most of the meal, but finally spoke up. Your social bonds appear to extend beyond genetic relationships. We're family, Ambassador Park said simply. Not by blood, but by choice. These people volunteered to serve together, to protect each other and protect Earth. Commander Krelthak's compound eyes reflected the dining room lights as he processed this information. You have weaponized your social connections. The human officers looked at each other in confusion. Weaponized? Captain Dae-ho asked. Your crew fights not for conquest or dominance, but for emotional attachment to each other, the insectoid explained. This makes them unpredictable. Dr. Choi leaned forward with interest. How do other species motivate their military forces? Duty, hierarchy, genetic programming, War Chief Grondar replied. Clear chains of command with absolute obedience. That sounds terrible, Commander Yang said honestly. How do you innovate or adapt if nobody can question orders? Innovation is the responsibility of leadership castes, Prime Speaker Veltar explained. Warrior castes follow instructions. But we're all both, Lieutenant Joe said, joining the conversation from his position near the door. Every crew member is expected to think, to lead when necessary, to make decisions. The aliens spent the rest of the meal trying to understand human military culture. They learned that promotions were based on merit rather than birth, that enlisted personnel could become officers, and that the command structure was designed to function even if the senior officers were killed or incapacitated. Most disturbing to them was the discovery that humans actually enjoyed military service. The crew of the Indomitable weren't conscripts or slaves or genetically programmed drones. They were volunteers who had chosen this life and found meaning in it. As the evening concluded, Commander Krelthak spoke privately with his fellow aliens in the corridor outside the dining room. The humans couldn't understand their languages, but Dr. Choi's equipment picked up emotional stress markers in all three species. "They're afraid," she reported quietly to Captain Deho, "but not of our weapons." "What are they afraid of?" "Us," Dr. Choi replied. "They're afraid of what we represent." The formal negotiations began in the Indomitable's main conference room at exactly R800 ship time. Ambassador Park So-jin had spent the night reviewing every piece of intelligence Earth possessed about galactic civilization, which amounted to almost nothing. Captain Lee Dae-ho sat beside her, representing Earth's military interests, while Dr. Choi Hye-jin monitored alien communications from her position at the Xenolinguistics Station. The three alien representatives arrived with additional staff members and what appeared to be recording equipment. Commander Krelthak carried a crystalline device that projected holographic documents, while Prime Speaker Veltar manifested several smaller energy forms that seemed to serve as assistants. War Chief Grondar brought two subordinate warriors, who stood at attention behind his chair. "Before we begin," Commander Krelthak announced, "the Galactic Council wishes to clarify the purpose of these proceedings. You are here to receive the terms of your species' integration into civilized space, not to negotiate those terms." Ambassador Park's expression didn't change, but Captain Deho noticed her hands tighten slightly on her tablet. "Commander, with respect, we understood this to be a diplomatic meeting between equals. Equality must be earned," Prime Speaker Veltar stated, his energy form flickering with what the translation software identified as condescension. "Your species has achieved faster-than-light travel, which demonstrates minimal technological competence. However, you lack the social development necessary for full membership in galactic civilization." Dr. Choi's equipment was analyzing the aliens' speech patterns and body language. She sent a discreet message to Ambassador Park's tablet. "They're following a script. This is how they handle all new species. Please explain what you mean by social development," Ambassador Park requested politely. Commander Krelthak activated his holographic projector, displaying what appeared to be a flowchart of galactic society. Civilized species organize themselves into clear hierarchies based on genetic suitability and specialized breeding programs. Your species appears to practice random genetic mixing and social mobility based on individual achievement rather than inherited traits. "You're saying we're too democratic?" Captain Deho asked. "Democracy is a primitive system that allows inferior individuals to influence decisions beyond their capabilities," War Chief Grondar explained. "Mature civilizations are governed by those genetically selected for leadership roles." Ambassador Park studied the holographic display, which showed various alien species arranged in a complex hierarchy. "Where exactly do you propose humanity fit into this structure?" Prime Speaker Veltar's energy form brightened. "The Galactic Council is prepared to offer your species protected status. You will be assigned a guardian species who will guide your development and ensure you don't threaten civilized space." "What does protected status entail?" Dr. Choi asked. Commander Krelthak gestured with 4 of his 6 arms, and the holographic display changed to show a detailed contract. "Your species will be limited to your current star system, plus 3 additional systems for expansion. All military vessels will be restricted to defensive capabilities only. Your government will report to the Council through your assigned guardian species. In exchange, you will be protected from hostile forces and provided with approved technologies." Captain Deho read through the terms displayed on the hologram. "This sounds less like protection and more like imprisonment." "You would prefer to face the galaxy's dangers alone?" War Chief Grondar asked. "There are species out there that would exterminate humanity simply for the resources your planets contain. And you would protect us from them? Ambassador Park inquired. As long as you remain useful and obedient, Commander Krelthak confirmed. The silence in the conference room stretched for nearly a minute. Ambassador Park was reading through the contract terms while Captain Deho studied the alien representatives. Finally, she looked up from her tablet. Thank you for this generous offer, she said carefully. However, we must respectfully decline. The reaction was immediate and dramatic. Commander Krelthak's 6 arms began gesturing rapidly in what appeared to be agitation. Prime Speaker Veltar's energy form flared brighter and began pulsing. War Chief Grondar's reptilian features arranged themselves into an expression of complete disbelief. Decline? Commander Krelthak repeated. No species has ever declined protected status. Perhaps because no species has ever been given a real choice, Ambassador Park suggested. Prime Speaker Veltar's energy form stabilized into a more focused configuration. You do not understand the implications of your refusal. Without Council protection, your species will be targeted by every predator civilization in the galaxy. Maybe, Captain Deho said. But we'd rather face those predators as free beings than live as pets. War Chief Grondar leaned forward in his chair. Your military capabilities are impressive for a young species, but you cannot stand against civilizations that have been perfecting warfare for millennia. We might surprise you, Captain Deho replied. Dr. Choi sent another message to Ambassador Park's tablet. Their stress levels are spiking. This isn't going according to their plan. Commander Krelthak activated his holographic projector again, this time displaying what appeared to be military data. Your vessel is formidable, but it is one ship. The Vex Empire alone fields over 10,000 warships, each designed by specialists who have bred for military engineering for 1,000 generations. Quality over quantity, Captain Deho observed. One of our ships might be worth 10 of yours. Your arrogance will be your destruction, Prime Speaker Veltar stated. The Council has records of 12 species that refused integration. All of them are now extinct. Ambassador Park was taking notes on her tablet. Did the Council cause those extinctions? The Council attempts to guide all species toward civilization, Commander Krelthak said carefully. Those who refuse guidance often encounter difficulties. Threats disguised as warnings, Dr. Choi murmured, loud enough for everyone to hear. War Chief Grondar's warriors shifted position slightly, their hands moving closer to what appeared to be weapon controls. Captain Deho noticed the movement and made a subtle gesture. Throughout the ship, crew members began moving to alert positions without triggering any obvious alarms. Perhaps we should discuss alternatives to protected status, Ambassador Park suggested. What other options does the Council offer? There are no alternatives, Prime Speaker Veltar said firmly. Species either accept guidance or face the consequences of their primitive choices. Ambassador Park closed her tablet and looked directly at each alien representative. Gentlemen, I believe we have reached an impasse. Humanity appreciates your offer, but we prefer to make our own way in the galaxy. Commander Krelthak's compound. Eyes reflected the conference room lights as he processed this unprecedented situation. You would condemn your entire species to destruction rather than accept the wisdom of your betters. We don't consider you our betters, Captain Deho said simply. We consider you different. The aliens conferred among themselves in their native languages. Dr. Choi's equipment was picking up increasingly agitated communication patterns. Finally, War Chief Grondar spoke for the group. The Council will not permit an unguided species to threaten galactic stability. If you will not accept protection, you will be contained by force. That sounds like a declaration of war, Ambassador Park observed. It is a statement of necessity, Commander Krelthak replied. Your species' chaotic social structure and unpredictable behavior patterns make you a danger to civilized space. Captain Deho stood up from his chair. Commander Yang, please escort our guests to their shuttles. I believe these negotiations are concluded. As Commander Yang Hyun-soo appeared with a security detail, the ship's general alarm began sounding. Lieutenant Commander Park Dong-min's voice came over the intercom. Captain, to the bridge immediately. We have multiple contacts approaching. At high speed, the aliens looked at each other with what appeared to be satisfaction. The Council anticipated your refusal, War Chief Grondar said. A containment fleet has been positioned to prevent your escape. Captain Deho activated his communicator. Bridge, this is the captain. What's our tactical situation? Sir, we have 12 alien warships moving into attack formation. They're demanding our immediate surrender. Ambassador Park looked at the alien representatives with disappointment. So much for diplomatic immunity. Diplomatic immunity applies only to civilized species, Prime Speaker Veltar explained. You have refused civilization. Captain Deho was already moving toward the bridge. Ambassador, I recommend you and your staff take shelter in the diplomatic quarters. This is about to become a military situation. One moment, Captain, Ambassador Park said. She turned to face the aliens one final time. I want to be absolutely clear about what's happening here. You invited us to a diplomatic meeting, threatened us when we refused your terms, and now you're attacking us. We are containing a dangerous species before it can threaten others, Commander Krelthak stated. Gentlemen, Ambassador Park said, formally, let the record show that the Galactic Council has committed an act of war against the sovereign territory of Earth. Whatever happens next is on your heads. Captain Lee Deho's decision stunned everyone on the bridge, including his own crew. With 12 alien warships prepared to attack them, he was choosing to respond to a distress call from strangers, instead of fighting for their own survival. Sir, Commander Yang Hyun-soo said carefully, the alien fleet will fire on us the moment we move. Then we'll have to be fast, Captain Deho replied. All hands, prepare for emergency acceleration. Tactical, I want firing solutions on the pirate vessels. Navigation, plot a course that puts us between the pirates and the convoy. Lieutenant Commander Park Dong-min was frantically updating his tactical display. Captain, the pirate fleet consists of 15 ships attacking 4 civilian transports. The pirates appear to be Corvan raiders based on their ship configurations. Communications broadcast on all frequencies, Captain Deho ordered. This is Captain Lee Deho of the UES Indomitable to all vessels in the area. We are responding to the civilian distress call. Any ship that fires on civilian targets will be considered hostile. The Indomitable surged forward with sudden acceleration that pressed everyone into their seats. Behind them, the alien diplomatic fleet was caught completely off guard. They had expected the human ship to either surrender or attempt to flee toward Earth. Nobody had predicted they would rush toward a completely different battle. On the diplomatic deck, the 3 alien representatives were watching the tactical displays in their assigned quarters. Ambassador Park Seo-jin had insisted they be given full access to the ship's sensor data so they could witness everything that happened next. The humans have lost their minds, Commander Krelthak observed, his 6 arms gesturing in agitation. They're abandoning tactical advantage to assist strangers. Prime Speaker Veltar's energy form was fluctuating rapidly. This behavior makes no strategic sense. The convoy has no value to them. War Chief Grondar was studying the tactical display with professional interest. Unless the value isn't strategic, watch how they move. The Indomitable covered the distance to the convoy in less than 3 minutes, her massive engines pushing her to speeds that made the alien observers recalculate their estimates of human technology. As they approached the battle, the pirate vessels turned to face this new threat. Tactical, identify primary targets, Captain Deho ordered. Sir, the pirates have the convoy surrounded. 3 transports are severely damaged. 1 appears to be venting atmosphere. The raiders are using civilian ships as shields. Then we remove the raiders without hitting the civilians, Captain Deho said simply. All weapons, precision targeting, only fire when ready. What happened next lasted exactly 4 minutes and 37 seconds, but it would be discussed in military academies across the galaxy for generations to come. The Indomitable's weapon systems had been designed for precision rather than raw destruction, and Captain Deho's crew demonstrated exactly why. The human ship moved through the pirate formation like a surgeon with a scalpel, disabling raider vessels with targeted strikes that left them crippled but not destroyed. When pirates attempted to use civilian ships as shields, the Indomitable's gunners simply shot around them, their targeting computers calculating angles that seemed impossible. "How are they doing that?" War Chief Grandar demanded, watching the tactical display. Dr. Choi Hye-jin had joined the aliens in their quarters to observe their reactions. "Human weapons are designed to minimize collateral damage," she explained. "We've learned to be precise because we usually fight near things we want to protect." The last pirate vessel was disabled with a shot that threaded the gap between two civilian transports, striking the raider's engine core with surgical accuracy. As the battle ended, the Indomitable immediately began broadcasting on emergency frequencies. "All civilian vessels, this is Captain Lee Dae-ho of the UES Indomitable. Please report your status and casualties. We are prepared to render assistance." The response came from the lead transport, its captain's voice shaking with relief and disbelief. "Indomitable, this is Captain Tavar of the merchant vessel Bright Horizon. We have multiple hull breaches and 17 injured crew members. Who are you people?" "We're here to help," Captain Dae-ho replied simply, preparing to extend docking tubes for emergency evacuation. What the alien observers witnessed next challenged everything they thought they knew about military behavior. The crew of the Indomitable immediately began rescue operations, treating the emergency like a natural disaster rather than the aftermath of combat. Medical teams prepared to treat wounded aliens whose physiology they had never encountered before. Engineering crews readied repair equipment for ship designs they had never seen. Most shocking of all, when the Indomitable's crew found wounded pirates among the disabled raider vessels, they rescued them too. "They're saving their enemies," Prime Speaker Veltar observed, his energy form fluctuating with confusion. "They're saving everyone," Dr. Choi corrected. "That's what humans do." Chief Medical Officer Kim Yoon-ah was working on a wounded Corvan pirate when one of the civilian captains approached her. "Doctor, why are you treating him? He was trying to kill us 5 minutes ago." "Because he's injured and I'm a doctor," Kim replied, not looking up from her patient. "I don't ask people their life story before I treat them." The rescue operation continued for 2 hours. The Indomitable's crew worked tirelessly to save lives, repair ships, and provide aid to anyone who needed it. They treated the grateful civilians and the sullen pirates with exactly the same level of care and professionalism. Captain Dae-ho spent the time coordinating rescue efforts and talking with the civilian captains. He learned that pirate attacks had become increasingly common in this sector because the Galactic Council's forces were spread too thin to provide adequate protection. "The Council promises safety to all species under their protection," explained Captain Tivar, a crystalline being whose ship had suffered the worst damage. "But their patrol schedules are predictable, and pirates know how to avoid them." Meanwhile, the alien diplomatic fleet had followed the Indomitable and was watching the rescue operation with growing bewilderment. Their ships maintained a safe distance, but their sensors were recording everything. Commander Krelthak was in communication with his superiors, trying to explain what they were witnessing. The humans abandoned tactical advantage to assist strangers, then used military assets for humanitarian purposes. This behavior contradicts all models of species development. War Chief Grandar was studying the way human crew members worked together during the rescue operation. "Look at their organization. No rigid hierarchy, no caste specialization. That engineering officer is giving orders to combat personnel, and they're following them without question. Because the engineering officer knows more about ship repair," Dr. Choi explained, still monitoring their reactions. "We put the most qualified person in charge of each situation." Prime Speaker Veltar's energy form had stabilized into a more focused configuration. "Your species operates on principles of situational competence rather than inherited authority. We operate on principles of getting the job done," Dr. Choi replied. When the rescue operation was complete, Captain Dae-ho found himself with an unexpected problem. The civilian captains were refusing to leave, and several of the captured pirates were asking to join his crew. "Captain," said Tavar, "we've heard rumors about a new species that fights differently. You're them, aren't you?" "We're just people doing our job," Captain Dae-ho replied. "Your job appears to be protecting others regardless of personal cost," observed Captain Yanel, a feathered being whose transport had been saved by the Indomitable's intervention. This is unusual. The conversation was interrupted by a communication from the alien diplomatic fleet. Commander Krelthak appeared on the main display, his compound eyes reflecting obvious confusion. "Human Captain, your tactical performance was adequate. However, your post-combat behavior requires explanation." "What needs explaining?" Captain Deho asked. "You rescued your enemies. You provided aid to strangers with no strategic value. You used military resources for civilian purposes. Would you prefer we left wounded people to die?" War Chief Grondar joined the communication. Most species would have looted the disabled vessels and claimed the convoy as prizes of war. Captain Deho looked genuinely disturbed by this suggestion. "That's horrible. Why would we do that?" Ambassador Park Sojin arrived on the bridge in time to hear the conversation. "Commander Krelthak, I believe you're beginning to understand why humanity rejected your offer. Your species is..." Commander Krelthak searched for words in several languages before the translator found an approximation. "Unprecedented. Prime." Speaker Veltar's energy form flickered as he joined the communication. "The Galactic Council must reconsider its evaluation of human civilization." The debate that followed lasted 6 hours and involved representatives from dozens of species across the galaxy. Dr. Choi monitored the alien communications as governments and military leaders tried to understand what they had witnessed. The final decision came from War Chief Grondar, speaking for the military arm of the Galactic Council. "The containment fleet is withdrawing. The Council wishes to renegotiate humanity's status." "What kind of status?" Ambassador Park asked. "Full membership," Commander Krelthak replied.